The morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office, painting golden stripes across the polished oak desk. I adjusted my silk blouse and ran a hand over the smooth surface, reminding myself that every detail of this life was mine now, carefully curated, earned piece by piece. Yet, as I sipped my coffee, the faint buzzing of my phone sliced through the calm. A message popped up. "We need to discuss the grant error from 15 years ago. Urgent." I froze. 15 years. That was how long I had carried the weight of someone else's mistake, how long I had rebuilt myself after being dismissed from the medical lab I had nurtured like my own child. My chest tightened, a flicker of old hurt surfacing, followed by the familiar spark of defiance. I stared out the window at the city below, the streets humming with life, oblivious to my inner storm. The office smelled faintly of fresh coffee and polished wood, comforting in its normalcy. I could feel the silk of my blouse against my skin, grounding me. I tapped a response, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, memories of that day long ago crept forward unbidden. The accusations, the shame, the silent judgment of colleagues who once called me the backbone of the lab. And through it all, the quiet whisper in my mind that I could rise again, not just rise, but soar. I straightened my spine, squared my shoulders, and pressed send. It was time to confront the past. I remember the day like it was yesterday, though my younger self would have begged me to forget it. I was 32, head of the lab at Westbridge Medical, a position I had fought tooth and nail for, running experiments, managing grants, and mentoring a team that trusted me completely. And then the call came. "Sam, we need to talk about the grant. There's been a serious oversight. You're responsible." I could feel my hands shaking, a tremor that betrayed the calm I always tried to project. My throat tightened as disbelief clawed at me. Responsible? After 15 years of dedication, every late night, every painstakingly documented experiment, I was suddenly the scapegoat for a clerical error that anyone with half a brain could see was systemic. I stormed out of my office, the fluorescent lights reflecting off the lab benches like accusing eyes. My assistant tried to reach for me, but I waved her off, desperate for air, for space, for some semblance of control. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the gift my grandmother had given me years before, a delicate silver bracelet engraved with her words, "Courage isn't loud, it's steady. Hold on to yourself, even when the world lets go." I traced the engraving with trembling fingers, feeling a surge of resolve amidst the heartbreak. Her voice echoed in my mind. "They may take your title, Samantha, but they can never take your spirit." The next day, I handed in my resignation. The board looked at me as though I had lost my mind, expecting tears or a plea for mercy. But I just stood there, heart pounding, chin high. I realized something that stingy, petty people could never understand. My worth wasn't tied to their approval, nor was my future bound by their mistakes. As I walked out of Westbridge for the last time, the cold autumn air hit my face, sharp and cleansing. That day, I decided I wouldn't just survive. I would build a life that proved to them, and to myself, that my spirit, my drive, and my vision were indestructible. After leaving Westbridge, I had nothing but a suitcase, a savings account I'd carefully tucked away over the years, and my grandmother's silver bracelet, her steady reminder that courage was quiet but relentless. I moved to a small apartment downtown, one with creaky floors and thin walls, but it was mine. Every morning, the smell of brewing coffee in the kitchenette reminded me that this was a fresh start. I spent months researching, networking, and pitching ideas that had never fit into the rigid hierarchy I'd left behind. It was exhausting. Nights blurred into early mornings. I would sit cross-legged on the floor, laptop balanced on my knees, fingers stiff from typing proposals, mind racing with self-doubt. Sometimes I'd glance at the bracelet and whisper, "Keep going, Sam. Just keep going." That's when I met Dr. Marcus Ellery, a retired lab director who had once been a giant in the biotech world. Unlike the board at Westbridge, he didn't see me as a troublemaker. He saw potential. "You've got vision, Sam," he said one evening, handing me a stack of research journals. Don't let anyone's mistake dictate your worth. Let your work speak. With his guidance, I learned to navigate the business side of science, grants, client relations, budgets, skills I had never needed to master as an employee. The first breakthrough came almost quietly, a contract with a small pharmaceutical startup that needed precise lab work I specialized in. The money wasn't much, but it was mine. Then another. And another. Each win was a brick in the wall I was building around my independence, each client a quiet vindication. I stayed deliberately under the radar. My family, my former colleagues, they assumed I was struggling. Social media posts were vague, professional, never boasting. I learned to smile at their assumptions while working late nights, perfecting processes, and expanding my tiny operation into a full-fledged consulting lab. By the third year, I had a small team of brilliant, loyal scientists who trusted me implicitly. The lab space was modest but efficient, and every corner held the sweat of hard-earned achievement. Meticulously organized sample shelves, hand-annotated research notebooks, and a framed photo of my grandmother smiling, bracelet in hand. I started to see the difference between success and recognition. Recognition was fleeting, success was tangible. It lived in the results, in the lives my work improved, and in the quiet pride that no one, not the board, not the colleagues who doubted me, could take from me. By keeping my achievements subtle, I had built a hidden empire, one that would eventually speak louder than the whispers of those who had once dismissed me. It was a crisp spring morning when they walked in, a group of familiar faces I hadn't seen in over a decade. Former colleagues from Westbridge, some mentors, a few distant relatives who had doubted my judgment, all expecting the struggling, defeated Samantha Hayes they thought I had become. I met them in the lobby of my lab, a space that had grown from a modest room into a full-scale research facility. The glass walls reflected sunlight in sharp lines across the floor, highlighting sleek equipment, organized benches, and carefully framed accolades, each a testament to years of relentless work. "Sam?" one of them whispered, disbelief lacing the syllable. I smiled, calm, composed, the kind of smile that carried the weight of unshakable confidence. "Welcome," I said, my voice steady. "I'm glad you could make it." They followed me through the lab, their eyes widening with every step. Expensive microscopes, high-tech analyzers, rows of chemical samples, all humming quietly in precise order. Walls adorned with modern art and personal mementos reflected my journey, a painting from a local artist I'd supported, photos of my team celebrating milestones, and in the corner, my grandmother's bracelet, glinting under the fluorescent lights. A silence settled over the group. I let it linger. Let them take it in. Let them feel the weight of their assumptions crumbling. Finally, I spoke. "I know what you think," I began, walking to my office, opening a drawer and revealing a neat stack of documents, my contracts, financial statements, and research patents. 15 years ago, I was blamed for a grant error and dismissed. Everyone assumed it was the end for me. I paused, letting the words sink in. It wasn't. I handed them copies of the documents. "This lab, every client, every project, it's mine. I've built it from scratch. My net worth, my ownership, my team, all earned, all independent of anyone's approval." Their reactions were immediate and visceral. Faces went pale. A former supervisor looked as if she might faint. Cousins shifted uncomfortably, their earlier smug expressions replaced with shame and awe. One former colleague finally spoke, voice cracking. "Samantha, we never realized." I let the sentence hang, letting them digest the full weight of truth. There was no need for bitterness, no need for a lecture. The lab, the tangible proof of my resilience, said it all. I continued. I kept my success quiet for a reason. Not out of spite, but because I wanted it to be real, unshakable, unseen by those who doubted me. And now, here you are, seeing it for yourselves. Eyes flicked around the room again, taking in the life I had built. A life of precision, independence, and quiet triumph. I felt the old anger bubbling briefly, but it was tempered now with a deep satisfaction. They had expected weakness, and instead, they found power. This was the moment I had envisioned on the day I left Westbridge. Not revenge, not humiliation, but undeniable proof that I could rise higher than anyone had imagined. The room was heavy with unspoken words, eyes darting between me and the tangible success surrounding them. For a moment, I let the silence speak, letting them feel the weight of the years they had misjudged me. Then I leaned against my desk, calm, deliberate, every gesture measured. "I want to be clear," I began, my voice firm but not unkind. "This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability for you and for me." I paused, letting the words sink in. "If you want to be part of my world now, there are conditions." I turned to my former colleagues first. "You need to let go of the petty rivalries and office politics. Your focus must be on innovation, mentorship, and integrity. If you can't do that, this lab isn't for you." Some shifted nervously, but I held their gaze. "I don't want excuses. I want effort and growth." Then I faced my family members. "I've watched you doubt me, dismiss me, even undermine me at times. If you want to rebuild trust, you'll need to be honest, pursue your own goals, and stop expecting me to fit the mold you imagine for me. I will support you, but only if you're committed to your own growth." I saw the mixture of shame and relief flicker across their faces. Some had tears in their eyes. "This is about healing," I said, softening my tone just slightly. "Not just for me, but for all of us. Change is uncomfortable, but it's the only path forward." One of the former supervisors, who had once accused me of negligence, swallowed hard. I understand. I will try." I nodded, letting the moment hang. "Good. And remember this. I built everything I have from courage, resilience, and steady work. No one gave me my success. And now, I decide how it's shared, with conditions that honor that journey." I could see the subtle shift in energy. The room had changed. Fear and doubt were replaced by recognition and tentative hope. For the first time, they weren't looking at the Samantha they thought they knew. They were seeing a leader, someone who wielded power with clarity, compassion, and firmness. I concluded, "You are welcome here if you're ready to change, grow, and honor your own potential. Anything less, and you'll be on your own. I've spent too long carrying the expectations of others to start again." Then I stepped back, letting the words settle. There was no anger in me anymore, only a quiet, unshakable authority. The power had shifted, and it wasn't loud or vindictive. It was deliberate, precise, and rooted in respect for myself and for those willing to meet me halfway. Weeks passed after that confrontation, and slowly, the room of doubters began to transform. Former colleagues approached with genuine questions about research, eager to contribute rather than criticize. Family members started pursuing their own passions, no longer tethered to old expectations. Each small change was a quiet victory, proof that my conditions weren't punishment. They were a bridge to growth. I sat in my office one evening, the sun dipping low and casting long shadows across the lab. The air smelled faintly of coffee and polished metal, the comforting scent of a space that was alive, purposeful, mine. I picked up my grandmother's bracelet, tracing the engraved words with my fingers. "Courage isn't loud, it's steady. Hold on to yourself, even when the world lets go." A smile tugged at my lips. Those words had guided me through every late night, every self-doubt, every moment I was tempted to believe I had lost everything. Now, looking around at the lab humming with energy, at the team working passionately, at family members beginning to grow into their own, I understood the full weight of her wisdom. Courage had been steady, and it had led me here. I reflected on the journey. The heartbreak of being blamed for a mistake that wasn't mine, the sting of dismissal, the years of rebuilding in silence. Every hardship had carved the path to this moment, and every step had strengthened me. I realized that true power isn't about making others suffer. It's about standing unwavering, even when others doubt you, and offering guidance without compromising your own worth. I glanced at the lab's window, the city lights beginning to twinkle like stars below. The world was alive with possibility, and so was I. The mistakes of the past had not defined me. They had refined me. And in that quiet, victorious moment, I spoke to myself softly, almost as if narrating a story. I lost nothing when they blamed me. I gained everything when I believed in me. I clasped the bracelet around my wrist, a symbol of the journey, the growth, and the unwavering courage that had carried me through. From that day forward, I knew I would never again be defined by others' errors or expectations. I had built a life of strength, independence, and grace, a life that no one could take, and one that reminded me every day that my spirit was unbreakable.